But let's move forward ourselves with some news outside of the NBA bubble. On Thursday, the Nets signed two-time MVP Steve Nash as their new head coach. This was a surprise move given that Nash doesn't have any previous head coaching experience, and there are very high expectations for this team next season. So, Amin, you worked with the Suns during the Nash era. Do you think that he's the right coach for this particular Brooklyn Nets team?
Not just the Nash era, but Sean Marks was with us for 2 years too, so I know both of these guys pretty well. He's definitely brings attributes and traits that I think are unique to this situation. So the X's and O's are beyond question. He's one of the greatest basketball minds we've ever had in this game, and what separates him from a lot of other great players, he's got a great way of verbalizing it, of making things simple so that people can understand and see what he sees. A lot of great players don't have that trait. But the other part, I think this is the thing that's going to separate him pretty much from every one of the other coaching candidates. Steve Nash is a different dude. He's got interests outside of basketball. This game is not his life. He is not confined in a box. And when you talk about Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, two superstars who pride themselves on being different dudes, who fashion themselves as intellectuals, as having interests outside of basketball. That's why Steve is the right guy for the job. The X's and O's, you can argue one way or another, but the ability to connect with someone who's just very different from your standard average NBA player or even NBA star, that's the part that's going to make a difference.
And here's the thing. Does it matter whether we think he's the right guy for the job? I hate to break it to all of us. No, it doesn't. What matters is, does Kyrie, actually in this order, does KD and Kyrie, can they agree that he's the right man for the job? And Sean Marks knows him, has history with him. All of this makes sense to me. I can't help but compare Steve Nash to Steve Kerr, the man he's been consulting with the Golden State Warriors and who he knows very well, because the man you just described to me, I think that fits Steve Kerr's description as well. Another guy who came in without coaching experience, although I guess Steve Nash was probably a little better player. We'd give him that, right?
By the way, on that point, George, I want to jump in here. I understand what Stephen A. Smith was saying yesterday, and there is a conversation that needs to be had about race and hiring practices in this league and really across the country. However, in this game, in basketball, we have traditionally given superstars the Disneyland Fast Pass to cut the line. We did it for Magic for the president job. We did it for Jason Kidd for the coaching job in Brooklyn. We did it for Isaiah Thomas taking over the Toronto Raptors. We've done it we did it for Larry Bird going to Indiana. We've done it time and time again. And that's the thank you that we give to the superstars. Our game is built on them. The only reason any of us have jobs is because superstars make this game possible. So speaking as someone who worked in the league and had to go the long route, starting an intern and video coordinator, et cetera, working my way up, I understand that superstars don't have to take that path. You know why? Because they already did it when they carried this league on their shoulders.
Well, and to that point, I do think the relationship part of this matter, as you guys alluded to, right? And there is a strong bond there, particularly, as Jackie mentioned, between KD and Steve Nash, right, Amin?
Absolutely. You know, people say Steve has no coaching experience. That's false. He's been in Golden State. He worked with guys on the floor. He worked with guys in the film room, specifically Kevin Durant. If you've ever been to a Warriors game and you've seen Kevin Durant do weird kind of warm-up shots where he does a squat on one leg, comes back up and shoots it without ever putting the other leg down, those are all from the Steve Nash warm-up stuff. These are all things that Kevin Durant, at the top of his game, an MVP, a finals MVP, looked at Steve Nash and said, you can teach me more. And that's such a huge part about this, is that the idea that these players, like Jackie said, Durant and Kyrie, look at Steve Nash as someone who can teach them more. Not just a caretaker, not a guy who puts them in the right position, someone who can teach them more about the secrets of this game. And ultimately, that's what it's about. It's that respect back there. One last thing. When people talk about player empowerment, this is player empowerment. It's not getting you what you want as a viewer or a broadcaster or a former player. It's what these players want. This is player empowerment in basically manifesting itself.
I think, too, it's important to mention here that Sean Marks really liked Jacques Vaughn, really wanted, if he couldn't get Steve Nash, to give Jacques Vaughn this head coaching job. Jacques Vaughn remains on the staff. And I can tell you, I remember when Larry Bird took over that job that you mentioned. I mean, he wanted Rick Carlisle by his side, someone that, and Dick Harter, people that had been there before, veteran coaches. And Jacques Vaughn has been a head coach on 2 different occasions. And so he's going to be very valuable to Steve Nash, and it's smart to keep him there.
And Jacques Vaughn has become the highest paid assistant now after this hiring of Steve Nash. Jackie, I do have one quick question about Kyrie. We've spent a number of minutes here talking about the relationship with Kevin Durant and Steve Nash. Can he forge a relationship with Kyrie? What needs to happen for him to forge a relationship with Kyrie that maybe some other coaches haven't been able to, forge with him?
Well, he's already at a distinct advantage because Kyrie cares about ballers. And Steve Nash was a two-time MVP, a slam dunk Hall of Famer. And Kyrie is a student of the game. He knows that. I'm sure he's watched film of Steve Nash. Steve Nash is already light years ahead of coaches that he's had that didn't play. Now, I think you can be a great coach without playing the game. We have plenty of evidence of that. But it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what Kyrie thinks.
All right, let's move
George,
on.
every player that runs pick and roll in this league has watched Steve Nash tape. Every pick and roll point guard in this league has watched Steve Nash tape.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.